welcome back to Worlds 2021, where we are perhaps one game away from deciding the winner between Galatasaray and Beyond Gaming. We are going to jump on straight into draft very quickly, so let's get on into it. Already, Aphelios, Draven, Lucian banned away by Galatasaray, and on the other side, Kennen, Zoe, and Kiana removed by Beyond, who picked red side this time.
Yeah, I understand why Beyond picked red side. Honestly, let's be honest, they had 3 pushing lanes in the beginning of the game, and it wasn't really a drafting issue. It was more like of a in-game decision-making that faltered a little bit. And then I like the adaptation that we're now seeing on Galatasaray. They're opting in for the Ryze in the beginning because they understand how important the mid lane pressure was in the beginning. But the adaptation is also coming through from the side of Beyond. They want to take away the misfortune from Alive, who just had a stellar series.
Yeah, Alive actually had a really good end to that last game. Obviously, in the early game, struggled. Removing the Lucian makes a lot of sense because you want to take away some of Doggo's pressure in the lane. However, he still gets Misfortune. Alive being put on the Ezreal here means that he's going to just be a little bit more passive down towards that bottom lane. However, Mojito and Bolulu having that combination of Talon and Ryze is so strong. On the other side, MF, Lee, and Syndra have been locked in for Beyond.
Yeah, so before, I think 2 days ago actually with Beyond, Maoan played his first Syndra this summer and got his first victory in his entire career on the Syndra. He's now looking to get his second, but I'll be honest, his performance wasn't that stable. He had a good early game performance where he got the priority to move down towards the bottom lane, but after that it still became a bit shaky and reliant on Doggo, and I'm not gonna lie to you, this whole series for Beyond Gaming so far still feels like it's relying very heavily on Doggo.
I will just, as a note, say Maoan has played since 2020 and had 4 games on Syndra before that, so it's not like he's played the champion 50 times and only won on it once. It was his 5th ever game on it. Alongside that, we are going to get on into this next phase of bans. I'm a tiny bit confused because it looks like no bans are coming up on our screen. So we'll find out what these bans are as soon as we can. Obviously, apologies that we cannot see them on the screen right now. But there are bans happening. We are working our way through.
I'm guessing there's at least some Leona, Amumu-ish ban coming out. You already have the Misfortune, right? You're trying to take away some of this heavy engage. Wonder if we're finally going to be seeing some Rakan as well coming into this one. And it wouldn't surprise me either if Kino in the end would end up having that last pick. But it's not only here. We can see it on the LED screens behind them as well. It's not really showing up at the moment. So we can only speculate so far. And we only have the top 3 first pick coming through so far.
Yep. So on either side, it's AD carries, junglers, and mid laners locked in. So we've got supports and top left, as you say, and we'll see where we go. Just sorting things out as we jump on out of the lobby for a second, and we'll get everything rectified and we'll get back in. Obviously, very important that everything goes smoothly through these stages, especially for Beyond, the game that could knock them out of Worlds 2021. For Galatasaray, the game that could take them into the next stage where they play against Hanwha Life Esports. And for Turkey as a region, it's been a long time since they managed to make it to the group stage. Last year, we saw Supermassive fall against Unicorns of Love. Before that, of course, you have to go all the way back to 2017, where it was, and you guys know the name, 1907 Fenerbahce, who made it to the group stage, ending up going 0-6 in their groups, but still managing to top their group in the play-ins and make it through to the main stage of Worlds.
Definitely. A win here won't solidify that just yet. Obviously, you still have the opposing Hanwha Life Esports, if I'm not mistaken. You have to fight as well going through this one, but you want to make it as quick as possible if you are Galatasaray. You don't want to show all your cards just yet. Surely they're coming in with full force here with what we still know them to play here. They've already drafted it in early game here in the beginning. And speaking of setting up the draft, I think we need to talk about Beyond setup in general. Going into a mid to late game has been one of these mistakes we've been seeing, is specifically about setting up the objectives as well, because Beyond last game, I think a lot of people saw that game and they were wondering why they couldn't come out ahead. But a lot of it really comes down to when Beyond starts splitting up on the map, when Beyond starts diverging their resources out to a bigger map state, they have issues with staying connected and not getting caught off guard with multiple members in the mid lane.
Yeah, they definitely do. Just as a small tidbit of information for everyone out there, there was a possible error in the League of Legends client. The League officials are investigating. The error was whether or not a player missed that 4th ban from the side of Beyond, or whether it was a client issue that caused the ban to be missed. We'll be sorting that out as soon as we can, and as soon as we get any more information, I'll be telling you guys. So,
great.
Yeah. this is the point where you start to talk about something else. Like, I have to do the spiel of like what I've been told in my ear while you were talking, and now you go, okay, let's talk about this new thing.
You're putting so much pressure on the new guy, Medic. You need to be the bigger person here. You need to, you know, show me the ropes a little bit, and I'm glad you're explaining it to me, giving me a little
I could have done this beforehand, though, let's be honest. You don't usually anticipate technical pauses. I will say every ban and pick up until that point will remain the same. So we still have the Ryze, I've written Mojito instead of Talon, but Ryze, Talon,
But honestly,
Ezreal.
it does make sense,
Exactly.
just because like Talon for Mojito has been such a, it's quickly for me at least, becoming such a signature champion. This was a guy already before coming into the tournament who did really well when resources was put into him by his team. And now when you suddenly have a champion like Talon that is meta, where you get to be annoying against squishies and still play as a carry with mechanics and hands, you also get to have so much map pressure around your lanes because of the mobility. And you know, top that off with Gordringer being the top of the line item for assassins. Of course, it's going to be super nice brawling with that.
It definitely works out really well for him, and we love to see Mojito going up towards the top side of the map, teaming up with Bolulu and then moving towards Crazy. That's my expectation in this game as well. I thought it was a little bit slow for Galatasaray in game 2, where Bolulu didn't really get to use his destiny, didn't really get around the map, and that's of course because Beyond was so proactive and we're putting them behind. But this game, you want to see more movement from Bolulu on that Ryze. You want to see him moving into those side lanes and using the pressure he can generate mid to team up with Mojito.
Yeah, one thing is already, of course, that Galatasaray loves to have a slow game time. If you've been familiar with the team, slowest average game time almost coming into this one. 33 minutes in victories, which is absolutely insane when you have the huge gold leads that Galatasaray do have. But they do also win when they have gold leads. That's just been the biggest surprise to me going into today's series is they've been coming back in a lot of these games.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is on Beyond themselves. I think a person who has a lot of responsibility going into this next series, it's no longer going to be Doggo, because we can talk about him all we want, but it is going to be shutting down this mid lane priority. It is going to be keeping Bolulu in check, so you have the time to get to the point where you can make the same mistakes again or fix them around these objectives, because the early game and the last game was not a problem from the side of Beyond. I think all 5 members and individuals the first 10 minutes actually did really well, but the problem started coming in towards the team fights where the communication just wasn't really there in terms of how they wanted to fight it, and it's something that they're going to look to adapt quickly onto. It's something that's going to be a really difficult and tough ask, because this is what you scrim for, this is what you try to practice against, and you're just going to have to fix it in the span of 2 games, or else that is your world's run.
Yeah, team fighting has been an issue for Beyond across the course of playing so far. Just having a look at some of the numbers, it was a combined teamfight KD of 0.39 before this series. So for every... well, this is hard to describe. Basically, for every kill they get, they die 3 times. It's like a 1-to-4 ratio more, but like still, it's incredible that they aren't able to fight out these team fights as well. On the other side, Galatasaray about a 1-for-1 ratio. In the TCL, they're a lot better than that, but their team fighting has still been a point of strength through planes, whereas Beyond Gaming have really struggled around those larger grouped fights, especially around objectives, and a lot of it comes down to their objective setup. Their vision control, their warding lines aren't quite as strong as some of the other teams we've seen, and today as Galatasaray.
Yeah, and it also begs the question, what is it really that we want to play around? Because, you know, we've seen the Jays as well from Liang, we saw the Irelia, and it just looks like these champions are getting punished as well in the top line, because even when they are getting leads down towards the bottom side, he is struggling with what he's been given essentially, and it always creates a path, not completely back into the game, but gold income that you can try and get back and grasp from the side of Galatasaray coming up there. And I would love to see if we could get something like the Tam Kench we saw yesterday from Liang, or like another tank or bruiser that's easier to survive with up in this top side. I mean, even an On, if you want to pair it up with Misfortune, Braum, or you already have the Misfortune for yourself here, really, so you obviously have your win conditions to play for.
It is tough as well, though, for Beyond, because traditionally when they've wanted to play tanks, it's PK who's come in and played those tanks.
Yeah.
So he's the on player. He's, you know, Set is kind of an off bruiser, but PK is the one that you bring in to play Set, whereas Liang is much more aggressive. You know, Camille, Gwen, Jace, Kennen, people that can really put the hurt down in that top lane. And while we do have a moment, because we're still waiting to get this everything rectified here, I do want to talk a little bit about Beyond and about the PCS generally as a region, because I think watching them, they had a strong performance in their region. You know, they took PSG to 5 games. They beat them in the first round and then lost to them in the finals, losing 3-2. But they were still a very strong team, and their coordination, their macro, and their map play was very good. But I think a lot of people will look to the PCS and say, hey, they should be challenging to make it all the way to groups every single time. And I think that's a little bit unfair on the region. Like, historically, PSG, Talon, yeah, they've done really well. And first seeds tend to get into the group and go like 1 of 5, 1 of 4, or thereabouts. And PSG Talon has been consistent for this region, but the second seed from PCS doesn't really usually make it to groups. Usually they get knocked out in play-ins. Usually they don't even make it into the knockout round of play-ins. So I think for Beyond, although they will be a little bit disappointed with how this is going today, how this best of 5 is going, it's still a strong performance by them to make it into the knockout stage. And if they can manage to pick up this and get into the second round of play-ins knockouts, that's a strong showing from the PCS.
I was speaking to some of the other guys about this team specifically as well with Beyond, because coming into the tournament, we were talking about how, you know what, they did take PSG to 5-game series, and PSG is a solid team, as we already have seen at the MSI stage. But one of the things that Beyond did so well is that they know PSG as a team.
Yeah.
When they played against them 10 games in that playoffs because they won the first best of 5 and then lost in the finals, it's because that they came in prepared for that team specifically, of that style specifically. PCS as a region usually have a lot of early kills because PSG is opting in for early skirmishes. You don't see the same thing here at play-ins. You haven't really seen Kino be out about on the map in the early game and leaving Doggo for himself to just scale up into the mid game. Here it's been way more reliant on answering the bot lane pressure that they necessarily haven't been used to being put on Doggo instead. So it's been interesting to see the adaptations of these teams, because coming into it, I expected Galatasaray to be the slow team. I expected Beyond to be the fast team, and Beyond would just win because they were faster. That has not been the case. Galatasaray has adapted.
Yeah, they definitely have. League officials are investigating whether the missed ban was a player or client error. While we wait for an answer, we'll be sending it back to the analysts.
Thank you very much, Medic. We'll let the league officials do their work and come to a conclusion for us about whether or not that misban was a result of player error or client error. And we'll get you back into Champion Select as quickly as possible. Until that time, though, we get to talk a little bit more about this do-or-die game for Beyond Gaming. And we have about half of a draft to work with. So Dag, talk to me, because we have so far said that their approach to the games from the red side we've been relatively okay with, given the fact that they have built leads, and it's been more about execution. But is there anything in this that you see that jumps out to you?
Yeah, the big one for me is that you're already looking at, and actually Emily was kind of talking about this backstage, is that you got the Talon pick, right? And you traditionally want something that's got a bit more push when you're going towards that, but you've got Syndra for the counter pick, you've got the MF with the push in the bot lane, and because you're on red side, you still have that counter pick for top lane as well. So in theory, you have 3 pushing lanes now for for Beyond Gaming that they can actually try to work around, especially if you're looking off these invades. And when we were talking already at the start of the day about like Cloud9 and DFM, how they found their success was, you know, shutting down Bolulu in this mid lane, finding pressure to move down to the bottom side. It feels like this is the play where you can go for as Beyond Gaming.
Yeah, and I think I'm looking to see whether they go for a support counter pick as well for Beyond, because again, I think it's interesting how we expected them to play one way, and they actually have been playing around early game really well. And then additionally, we already talked about. Actually, we're ready to go back.
I'm going to jump in because the teams are ready to hop back in. The error was determined to not be the result of player error. BYG will ban Gwen as their 4th ban. So with that, we're handing it right back over to Medic and Goldberg for the call.
Thank you very much, Dash. Thank you guys for filling in. Definitely needed a small breather as we waited to get on into this. Gwen will be the 4th ban. On the side of Beyond, we'll just rattle through things here. In fact, so quick that it is all populate as we go along. We're losing some picks, we're gaining some picks. They'll all be there in the end. That's the important thing. And then we'll work our way through to the second stage of picks and bans.
But it's going to be interesting. So far, we've been determined to be the Gwen ban coming in, so they are trying to chip away some of Crazy's pressure up in the top lane. And you know what? I think banning away his 100% win rate Gwen so far is a very good shout, at least here in the beginning. It's been something they had issues dealing with when you've reached that mid-game because of the Hallowed Mist. And I'm looking on Galatasaray now to say, who do we feel like have the most pressure? Is it going to be Liang up in this top side with some of these champions we want to take away, like the Jace or GP? Or do we just take away the Leona, the Amumu to pass up so well with the Misfortune.
I think the Leona ban makes a lot of sense,
I agree.
especially considering you can chase down that Ezreal pretty easily. Of course, Ezreal, one of the slipperiest AD carries in the game, but Leona is a strong support blind pick. It means that you save top lane counter pick for last as Beyond if you pick your support next, and they will get rid of Camille as well. So getting rid of 2 of those strong top laners implies to me that Beyond will go support into top lane counter pick for this next rotation.
Yeah, I think you could very well be right here. There is also the option that they're trying to say, you know what, we're banning away 2 top laners to a counter that we want to blind pick here, but in the end, well, let's see what it's going to come down to, and it is actually going to be that Jace ban over for Liang. We already seen it one time for him. He got a lot of early game pressure from it, playing into the Gwen, but it kind of fell through later down the line when we reached that mid game, and now just picking a support here is going to be excellent. You already got the Leona removed away. There's still the Alistar you can go into for this one if you want to try and counter it a little bit or match the aggression that we see, but it is going to be the Amumu now paired up with the Misfortune.
Amumu has been a sad mummy for a long time because he wasn't picked. Now he's a sad mummy because he can't flipping win. 0% win rate for Kino on it over the 2 games he's played. I'm just going to check the stats for the entirety. 1 win, 7 losses for the entirety of play-ins for Amumu. So we'll see if that continues today. I do wonder if there's going to be an Ornn pick finally here for Beyond. It's not really Liang's style, but I think alongside the rest of this, Ornn for the initial engage, Amumu for the follow-up, and then the bullet time raining alongside that could work out. Of course, into the Gnar is a matchup that kind of just gets chipped away at, but Ornn can survive that 1v1.
Yeah, so either you match the aggression here with the playmaker, or you decide to say, you know what, we'll pick Braum into Misfortune. It'll be good against the Lee Sin as well if they want to jump in. Or you just get that follow-up that we already talked about here. You have the Ryze that gets the pressure. You have the Gnar that's going to be jumping in with Mecha. The same for Talon here. And Rakan does super well, specifically with invisible champions he can just dash to with the quickness on to get that extra knock-up. So that really sets it up, and that's an insta-lock on the Irelia. Irelia obviously having a good matchup into the Gnar, but that also means that you're playing up towards that top side, and you should be leaving Doggo at least to the mid-game.
And Irelia just slipped all the way through picks and bans. A very well-known Gnar counter pick. Of course, we've seen it throughout the history of these 2 champions existing, and with Irelia being as strong as she is right now, it's no surprises that Beyond had decided to go for it, but there's a lot of weight on Liang's shoulders this game. Bot side likely to be left a little bit on an island. I do think Amumu into Rakan is an okay matchup because whenever the Rakan dances to an Ezreal, you just queue towards whoever he's going towards is. So makes it a little bit easier for the Amumu to land some of those bandage tosses. Galatasaray 1 game away from a playoffs berth versus Hanwha Life Esports for a spot in the main stage of groups. 4 years since Turkey made it to the main stage. Let's see if Galatasaray can continue their winning ways and take this in a clean sweep, or whether Beyond will be able to fight back for the PCS, fight back for pride, and take us to game 4. Worlds always brings out the best in people, brings out the best League of Legends from around the globe, and I'm ready for another game of the action we've been having so far. Both games have had a Soul, both games have had an Elder, both games have had like 3 Barons. Just give me another one of those.
It's going down to the wire every time. It feels weird saying how important the early game is between these 2 teams, because in the end, it just gets defined by that last team fight.
It's just team fighting.
And that's not to say that the early game is not going to matter, because the only reason it really comes down to that last team fight is because that, well, the team that's in the driving force usually lets them get back onto that point. Some level 1 shenanigans up here, trying to see if they can extend the outmost of this early game if they can get a first blood. But no one's biting. Crazy's not checking up here. He's actually just sat in river. So no one should be going down here.
And no one spotted out the 4-1 split there. What you do is you go through lack of vision through Fog of War for the top 4, and then Liang positions down towards the bottom side of the bush, hoping that if an enemy top lane is in that bush, they path up towards where their tower would be, and then there's 4 people with waiting arms out for them. 100 Thieves there from Kino. Feels a little bit weird that he decided to go against his own team, but sure.
I mean, he just really wanted a hoodie. Anyways.
Maybe he's a big Abadage fan.
Yeah, that could be as well. Bot laners will be leashing their junglers here, moving up towards the top side of the map. It feels like it has been a a staple for this series so far.
Yep.
And it certainly makes sense in the term of wanting to stabilize your Gnar as Galatasaray, and on the side of Beyond Gaming, obviously wanting to extend the lead that you can get with an explosive matchup like the Irelia into Gnar.
Crazy, getting a little bit harassed down in the first couple of levels. Mojito showed us in game 1 that this Talon has a relatively fast clear. Of course, we all saw it earlier on in play-ins as well, but expectations are he should be able to outmatch Husha on this first rotation, usually by about a camp or so across the course of all 6 of them. Kino here trying to trade in, lands the bandage toss onto Zergsting, but Zergsting with the passive shield is still pretty tanky. It's a Guardian into Aftershock matchup, so Kino will be very happy to jump in like that because he knows he has his Aftershock to walk away, whereas the Guardian, of course, after that shield is procs, you don't get it.
That's the mobility you're looking to work with, just because if you tank up the bandage touch, you can just battle dance. Oh, wow, Kino already forced a flash.
Bandage toss available, and Kino's going to try and turn this one around, but the Ignite's already ticking, exhaust going down as well. Alive with the extra combat summoner there, forces Kino back, but Doggo does still have heals, so in terms of overall advantage, it's a summoner advantage for Doggo and Kino. Didn't even burn their own Ignite there.
Yeah, this can become important later. Kino still has the pot that he's on right now, and obviously Doggo still sitting on multiple pots and biscuits, so the sustain game in general on Beyond should still be there. Now, as we take a look at the mid lane, as we've already established, important for the early game priority, but you can see how much mana Bolulu needs to extend to try and just keep Maoan in lane, and teleports might come out early from both mid laners just to establish more control as Zergsting dashes in, now gets the Ignite.
Did have the Guardian proc, so knew that he could, assuming he could dash out, he'd be fine. Meanwhile, Liang in the top lane trying to trade on Crazy, who bounces on his head and jumps away. There's another bandage toss, lands onto Alive, he's down. Second on the menu is Zergsting, who tries to flash away, but a flash auto from Doggo would have been enough, decides to hold onto his summoner.
Yeah, the aggression that's coming through from Galatasaray is just a bit too much here, and with the summoner spell advantage that Doggo and Kino already had, just not the play you were looking for, but nice to see from Beyond that they're able to find individual leads.
Oh, Zergsting underneath the towers down. Doggo actually flashed for that, but he manages to survive. It is supportal combat. 1-0 in bottom lane, and Kino didn't give an assist over to Doggo. Meanwhile, Mojito trying to make something happen on the top lane, but this wave not in the best of states for him to go for the dive. Instead, Liang will back. And actually, looks like he'd probably have to TP into this, because otherwise it's just going to really slow push against him.
This can be scary, though, because if he decides to TP, he needs to walk up, then, well, I was going to say Bolulu would still have a TP for his own, but he's going to match that teleport from Maoan in the mid lane, and Mojito has backed us as well, reset for that pickups to have that extra damage.
It's very reminiscent of game 2, though, isn't it? You know, Beyond getting out to an early lead, a lot of that through Doggo and Kino in the bottom lane, just having the 2v2 advantage. And now, Zergsting unleashed on the map. Ezreal, of course, when you get to level 3, basically has all the tools he will ever need to protect himself and can just farm from range. The only issue for Zergsting is he does need a few levels in his own back pocket if he's going to get towards these more impactful ganks where you have something like the quickness. Expectations are Zergsting will try and get up towards that level 6 and probably just leave his bot lane partner alone for a while.
Yeah, but especially if you can get level 6 on this Amumu and Misfortune before the Rakan starts having his flash up again, the CC chain that you're able to put down on people there is going to be too much. And now, speaking of that priority, Maoan get the priority in the mid lane, moves up towards the top side, forces Crazy to bag, so they don't get the dive, but Crazy's losing resources.
He's got flash. There is a blast cone there for him now, but Mojito's on his way. Liang flashes forward. Blade surges in. The counter flash won't be enough. 2 autos from the turret. Well, Mojito dives in and will smite the kill. Also is going to catch this entire wave, instead giving over to Bolulu.
Yeah, so they won't lose too much. Crazy can just TP into the mid lane, so that means Bolulu won't be losing any waves there. So there you see it.
Yeah,
it's a one-for-one trade and a super nice little macro play to go for here. So once Bolulu pushes in the top side, he can recall himself, go back to the mid lane, while Crazy is clearing in the mid lane here. So super nice to see from the side of Galatasaray, but also Liang stepping up in a position where he has been giving the counter match in a series where he so far haven't been able to leave his mark.
It's definitely something Liang needs to do, getting that Irelia for the final pick here. And we can see it looks like relatively even to start it off. Liang using Fog of War relatively well just to dodge back, get a couple of auto attacks in here and there. And then at this point, as soon as Crazy flashes away and you still have Blade Surge, it's an easy kill for Liang.
Yeah, I think it's super cute done by Liang there, just flashing forward, waiting for the own flash of the Gnar to come through where you then Blade Surge. And all in all, Crazy just being a bit too...
Crazy?
Yeah, I guess that's... he could have been a bit more patient in terms of waiting for his jungler.
No,
Liang.
he's pathing the wrong way here. Vanguard's Edge coming out and Crazy jumps across, but there is Husha. And, whoa, okay. Husha? Is that just respecting the fact Mojito could be there?
Yeah, I think the mistiming there on the Nabor, he thought he was going to come through, and therefore he didn't want to take the Sonic Wave to get knocked in, and because of that, Crazy just gets to walk out of that one. Crazy should have been dead, and now the response down in bottom lane.
Heal used there by Doggo to try and get away with the room. Prison lands. There's the grand entrance. Zergsting taking the kill isn't the best, and the Ignite will tick him down, so it's a 1-for-1 trade in the bottom lane with the supports getting the kill.
That's the big thing, though. The fact that Doggo don't get to pick up the minion wave, and there, once again, we see the battle of the mid laners. It's pushing in the mid lane, not so you can extend the pressure for tower plating, but so you can expend it in the side lanes instead, and that's so pivotal for this series. You can see Galatasaray have opted in to attack the bot side instead of the top side, and Beyond Gaming, they've done the opposite. They are now the team going for the Irelia up towards the top side.
Yeah, 900 gold ahead already for Liang. It's having a stormer start to this game, and Beyond about 1,300 gold in the lead on the start of what would be a pretty epic comeback, let's be honest. 2-0 down, both games that, if you look back at them, you'll see very key moments where they could have won or should have won them. And Galatasaray have been able to fight back well, but Beyond now need to reverse sweep if they're going to make it into that knockout match against Hanwha Life.
It's one of those weird scenarios where you watch the game, you see the entire early to mid game, and you're like, wow, this team is super good at getting the control. But the problem is, in the end, if you can't kill the enemy nexus, you don't deserve to get that win. And that's what it's all about.
Very true, Gorborg. It's a tip I'll take into my solo queue games from now on. I type into my teams at the start, be like, hey guys, we don't kill the enemy nexus, we don't deserve to win. And then all my opponents surrender at 15 anyway, so it's fine. Alive here, paying respect to the fact that he is by himself on this bottom lane. We'll have to look for that CC chain you were talking about earlier, because Amumu and MF, a single bandage shot can spell death, and there it is, flash bandage, bullet time, jumped away from there. Zergsting will pay with his life for the fact that Alive was slightly out of position and had to burn his flash.
Yeah, obviously bandage touch, you run, or you drag yourself towards the enemy, so he follows him with the Arcane Shift there as well. Nice done by Zergsting, who sacrifices his own life for it, but the cross map is coming through at the same time. Rift Herald, it has been picked up by Mojito, and now all of a sudden Liang is forced back on the Irelia, so the center of attention for Beyond Gaming has been switched around. It's no longer about that top side, now it's about Doggo in the mid lane, or bot lane rather, and because of that, Galatasaray is extending their own pressure up here.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be full 5 plates here in the top side. Liang with the Vanguard's Edge. Actually, the plates don't quite form. Mojito tanking up the tower there. Rift Herald still charging in. Liang going back in with the Defiant Dance, and will be able to survive. Rift Herald goes down, and the tower also is alive there. Dragon taken down towards the bottom side of the map. So Beyond, what did they get out of this? Well, they got 3 plates in the bottom lane, they got the kill, and they lost 4 plates in the top lane. So overall, depends if you equate a Dragon's gold to a plate, which I do. I think Beyond got out on the good side of that. Once again, Zergsting, that Ignite's gonna kill you, my man.
Oh, no.
He dies for Bolulu. Zergsting, he's 1-4, but every single time he's died is because he's been defending one of his teammates.
Yeah, you know, that's what you need to do here. You can't be a KDA player as a support. You'd rather just die so they can stay alive to either catch waves or get back to a reset quickly. So Zergsting there, saving his mid laner for his own life.
Sag. Importantly, though, Kino is the one picking up the majority of these kills, actually. 3-0-2, the Ignite has been doing work for him. And as much as, you know, getting an earlier mythic on a support is great and it works well for you, it's not as impactful as getting, you know, those extra items on Misfortune or those extra items on Syndra. So if Galatasaray look at this, they'll say, okay, our support's down 1,000 gold right now. That's not the end of the world. We can still manage to play back from this sort of position. We still have a pretty strong Bolulu in the mid lane on this Ryze. We still have Ezreal who can scale up as the game goes on.
And that's the thing, because right now, for Beyond Gaming, I see a 2k gold lead, but I'm not feeling confident in this just yet.
I mean, that's because last game they threw a 10,000 gold lead.
Exactly, because of this. This is not the issues of Beyond. They've clearly displayed that they know how to play the early game. But the problem comes in once we reach that mid game, and the problem comes in once Galatasaray gets to excel themselves out on the side lanes, because they have Ryze. They get to play 2 solo laners in the same lane if they want to shadow each other, if they want to look for picks. And that's where I want to see Beyond Gaming have that better setup. But right now, they're having a stellar early game.
They definitely are. Kino actually having a really strong game as well. He's been consistently underperforming, I think, through this playoffs here on this Amumu. He's finding picks, he's finding those bandage tosses, he's finding his man every single time, and perhaps he's going to break the curse that is the sad mummy this series and this tournament. Only won 1 out of the 8 games he's been played in.
Yeah, but so far the mission control is so good from Beyond as well. You can see up towards the top side, it's lit with wards. And the little vision that Galatasaray is trying to put down, they're able to at least clear it out here with the pressure that they have. And this is the luxury you get when you have pressure in lanes. Mid lane pushed in, you have first move up towards the top side with Liang here. Mojito's on the tower.
Can defend for the moment. Realm Warp available. There's the TP down towards the mid lane. Mojito's going to try and clear the South Shadow Assault being used as well. Kino already used the Curse of the Sad Mummy, and he's still surviving. Will get shut down. Liang now the next target. Bolulu trying to do what he can. Zergsting on his way. Look at the flank. Here's the quickness, and get down with it. Husha with a great kick will knock them away. Liang though's going to get chased down. Crazy, and Bolulu will secure it. And Galatasaray able to fight back in the top lane.
And these are the picks we're talking about. You're overextending here as Beyond Gaming. Kino, you had just been complimenting him, and then they go too far forward under the tower. Mojito still had his ultimate, and I mean, really nicely response from Zergsting. He's actually still up here. Gnar is falling.
Crazy, still has flash. Unleash power going out. Crazy, yeah, he's dead. Too much damage from the side of Beyond. Zergsting was there to defend, but Crazy decided not to invest any of his resources. No summoner to get out of that one.
Yeah, fair enough. Zergsting didn't have the flash either, so he couldn't flash Battle Dance to get the Guardian on either, so there's really no reason to risk those summoner spells there. There is 1 minute and 20 seconds until the second Drake of the map will be respawned, and that also means that you probably want to have your fighting tools for that objective.
Let's have another look at this fight in the top lane, because as you say, what I love from Mojito here is he's just trying to clear out this wave. He even uses the ultimate as we come back out of it.
Yeah, it's also just, it's not really timed so well between the two Beyond members here. Kino is coming in investing everything, but Liang is just charging off his W. And then the real hero of this play is Zergsting, that's coming in for the Dream flank, forcing 2 summoner spells. Because if they didn't, that would have just been the nicest 3-man knock-up in the world.
It's one of those really long rotations from the support, because you saw Bolulu, I thought they were going to Realm Warp in, instead Bolulu uses the TP, which does make sense because Realm Warp can be used to continue the chase after you have that initial play. And Zergsting then made his way the long way around. Let's have a look at where we are in terms of gold. 80 carry difference. Doggo, 5 plates in the bottom lane now. 2,400 gold ahead on this MF. Top lane as well, a huge advantage for Liang. Mojito, though, did pick up the shutdown on Kino. So we'll have to see and keep your eyes on that Trickster Talon through these fights. Because if he can get onto Doggo, who very wisely has gone Eclipse for the extra shield, we have to see how that balance plays out in team fights.
And that's the pressure there also is on Maoan now in these team fights, because you kind of want to save your scatter for the Gnar jumping in or for the Talon coming in. Yeah. You want to make the life for Doggo as easy as possible. And good thing for you, you have a fed Irelia now that can create some issues for the enemies, so there's 2 points of attention you're going to be having. But just due to the pressure and due to Galatasaray right now in this moment, and finding it in them to go for a team fight, they're going to let that Drake go over to Beyond Gaming again.
Liang respecting the fact that he might meet a jungler off towards the top side, backs away before the tower goes down. First tower of the game for Galatasaray, up towards that top lane. Dragon secured, as you say, for Beyond the Cloud. It is an Infernal Soul, so no Ocean Soul this game, but TP's coming in. They're looking to collapse here on Mojito and on Crazy. Might actually just be looking for the Rift Herald. Mojito has a good flank position. Bolulu no TP, and he's down towards the bottom side. This would be a numbers advantage for Beyond. Zergsting will know that he shouldn't face check this.
Yeah. This is nice from Beyond in terms of taking over control of the Rift Herald, but as Galatasaray here, you want to keep these mid lane shoved. You can give over this Rift Herald, and then you'll focus your attention down towards the bot side instead. But it's a good rotation, because they're finding this rotation while the camps are respawning on the top side for Galatasaray. So not only are they getting a Rift Herald for themselves, not only do they have more pressure in the mid lane, they're also taking away jungle agency.
Bullet time coming in, but that's some quickness. Kino just dived way too greedily, way too deep. Bullet time will do a huge amount of damage, as was the Curse of the sad mummy. You can see Doggo is able to get one kill out of it. Mojito trying to do what he can, but he's Shadow Assault as well. Irelia TPing in. Husha diving onto the back. Will get one, but he's taken out as well. Crazy now with Bolulu, but Bolulu flashes forward. Rune Prison Zergsting diving in. The dodge from Doggo, able to get the counter shut down. Crazy now trying to trade back onto Maoan, but he might need to get out of this one. Does still have the flash. The chase in from Liang, who has no flash of his own. Crazy should be able to escape. Yeah, flashes the Vanguard's edge. In the end, a 4 for 3 in favor of Beyond.
It looked like Kino once again was diving too far forward, but as you said, it is still in favor of Beyond. They get the mid lane turret. They get some camps as well, and it looks like they will be able to pick up top side in a bit as well for Liang, with no TPs being available of the solo laners for Galatasaray. But something that still felt like you didn't have to commit so much into it. There was still gold that went over to Galatasaray there.
With Doggo dying off, does put more gold in the back pockets of Galatasaray. Beyond still very much in control of this game. You can see the binding hits onto Zergsting, and at this point I'm like, okay, just back off instead of going for the flash Curse of the Sad Mummy.
Yeah, exactly. It seemed like they went a bit too far forward there, and as soon as the collapse starting to come in here, you have to invest the TP at the same time, because it is Husha tempts himself of going up the 1v1. I think at this point, it's nicely done by Bolulu, but at the same time, it's also disrespecting what the champions of Beyond Gaming will do. So Zergsting dashing in at the same time, he's just giving away his life for nothing, realistically, there.
I think the debate is, you saw that Bolulu got a 500 gold shutdown. Is getting that 500 gold worth giving 300 more gold over to Doggo? Because if it is, then sure.
I mean, Zergsting already has been doing a good job of just sacrificing his life for solo laners this game. So, you know, might as well just sacrifice your support for that shutdown.
And with the full lethality misfortune being built up here, Eclipse Yumu's Umbral Glaive will give more vision control over to Beyond. And with that Scryer's Bloom, they spot out Mojito and Bolulu down towards this bottom side of the map. 2 minutes on the Infernal. 4,000 gold the lead here for Beyond. We have seen them lose from this position before, but they are once again in the lead in a very strong spot, fighting for their lives here at Worlds 2021. A win here would possibly be the start of their comeback. However, a win for Galatasaray would take them through to tomorrow, where they face Hanwha Life Esports.
So let's actually see how they deal with this setup this time around. There's no need to go for it just yet, as there still is 1 minute and 30 seconds, so it's still a couple waves before that. The Drake is really gonna matter. They're clearing out some aggressive vision in the early game, but they still need to be careful, as the area around the Drakes is still dominated by Galatasaray with their warding. So seems like they don't care about that just yet, and they just want to accelerate the pressure with the Rift Hell. Nicely done here by Galatasaray, or Beyond Gaming rather, pushing in the mid lane, collapsing on the bottom side, and you should be able to get a second charge with Rift Hell after this one.
I feel like you didn't really need to lose Rift Hell's health on that first charge. Could have just chipped away at the tower a bit quicker and it would have gone down. They will still get a second charge in, as you say, towards the inhibitor tower. Only 19 minutes into the game. Might be a bit early for an inhibitor, but Kino is looking for kills instead. Already they killed off Zergsting. Husha diving onto the backline, as well as Mojito has to use the Shadow Assault, but he's already down. Gnar coming in. Crazy not TPing, instead recalling. Inhibitor will be taken in the bottom lane here. Now, the important thing with this for Beyond is they have to use this pressure. Crazy continues to push on the top side. Liang chipped away at by alive. Flawless Duet will land. And when we talk about taking early inhibitors, it's not that necessarily taking the inhibitor is bad. The problem is if you can't use the extra pressure you get from the bot lane inhibitor being down, then it doesn't work for you. However, Beyond have a couple of seconds before the Baron comes up. They've got a dragon to take as well, so if they can utilize the fact they have super minions in the bottom lane pushing in to stop Galatasaray being able to respond to a Baron, it could work out for them.
Yeah, but the problem is the reset has been a bit awkward here. You have TP in a bit from Maoan, so he can just recall and then TP into the Drake, but as it looks right now from Galatasaray, they're not even going to contest this one. This is going to be a free soul point going over to Beyond, setting them up nicely for an Infernal Drake in 5 minutes. Galatasaray, they're looking at the top side, but
Mojito walked straight over like a ward. So
they didn't get much more out of that than the tier 2 turret, and it looks like they just need to reset now.
The thing was, Galatasaray were aiming to catch someone rotating or moving towards the top lane, but there's this ward they're about to see, there's this control ward, and they walked just straight past both of them, so it was very easy for Beyond to stay away from them.
I like Kino this time around, hits the bandage touch, ultimates immediately, no way he wants to get hit by the quickness again, and then follow up with the second bandit toss in the kit. Super nicely done, and it just sets up the inhibitor.
Yeah, really good stuff from Kino. That's the power of this movement, it's why we've been seeing it so prevalently throughout the course of Plains, is that double bandage toss, having 2 charges on any sort of hook basically OP. Imagine Thresh with Imagine Blitzcrank. Deary me, that would be so broken.
That's a new champion I want. 2 hooks on charges. That sounds fun.
We've had 2 chains. Can we get 2 hooks?
Thank you very much.
That's what we need. We've also had 2 Shens. WTF.
Whoa.
Beyond pushing for this top side. This game is very much in their hands. 5,000 gold ahead. Bolulu in a strong position. Seraph's complete. I like the fact he's got that second item here.
Let me correct you there. Just like all the games so far, this is very much in Beyond's hands. And they're now having the priority around the top side of the map. They're having Liang push in the mid lane. And there's no counter response from Galatasaray because essentially there's nothing you can do right now. You're waiting for that one key moment where you catch Beyond slipping, where you catch someone off guard. You start getting that pressure back on the map.
Issue is just how far behind you are. 1,000 gold in the top lane, 3,000, 4,000 in the AD carry position. Bolulu's in a good spot. You know, he's got 2 items. There's not much magic resist on the other side, but it feels like a very uphill climb for Galatasaray to be able to do anything here. Baron available, total vision control for Beyond on that top side jungle. And they will just continue to chip away at these towers, slowly bleeding Galatasaray out of this game.
Completely are. No camps to take. Well, they're taking away the remaining camps as well. Can go for their own camp. Respawn timers can go for reset and then set up the defensive vision again, or the aggressive vision again, rather. It's like they're just looking for potential pick.
Zergsting isn't really the target you want. Flawless duet coming out from Liang. They looked for Mojito instead, but Zergsting, of course, can just dance his way out of a fight. Kino, though, once again in the fog of war, in the darkness here, puts the ward over the wall to distract Crazy, and that will be swept.
Down towards the bottom side. Bolulu is picking up a lot of these super minion waves that you were talking about with the inhibitor. This pressure that they've been gaining off the bot lane has given them some towers up towards the top and towards the mid lane here, but it hasn't resulted in a Baron just yet. So as Galatasaray, you're taking all the free resources you can get at this point. And now when the resets are finally coming through from Beyond, you need to be able to take control over your own blue side jungle again, because if the vision stays lit like this for Beyond, then it becomes problematic if a Baron starts to get started up.
Mojito walks over a slew of wards, just a plethora of them, basically entirely on vision the entire time he walks through this jungle. He'll clear a couple of them out. Husha and Liang are in the vicinity, and so could make something happen if they wanted to, but they decide they just want to continue to deny as much awareness as possible. Now, that bot lane inhibitor back up in 45 seconds. As you said, Beyond have been able to take some towers out of it. They've extended their gold lead by about 2,000 across the course of that inhibitor being down. They're now up to 6,000 gold ahead, but Galatasaray are starting to get some of these items under their belts. You know, 2 items on their AD carry, 2 items on their mid laner. Whereas obviously on the other side, Doggo has 4 items.
Yeah, I know. You're trying to make it sound good. It's like, oh yeah, he's got 2 items, but on the other hand, we have Doggo Premier with 4 items. The guy she told you not to worry about.
Exactly. Before he was a Chihuahua, now he's this massive Alsatian, just too strong. You could say his bite is worse than his bark.
It surely is, yeah. And then looks like Baron won't be the deciding factor of this game. It looks like they just want to take it slow. It's harder to throw at a Drake. Oh, they actually get a good pick here.
Stunned and alive is not that anymore. Kino gets the kill. Quickness coming out as Mojito tries to escape. They will be able to retreat for the moment. But Baron immediately pinged here. Now, do you fight this if you're Galatasaray? I think no. I think you just back away, but they might want to go for it. They do have Mega Gnar building up. It looks like Crazy's Gnar bar is actually very low, so it would be a long time.
It's a problematic philosophy, because statistically speaking, after them getting Baron, they should be able to have the pressure around the Drake as well. And then they should be having Baron buff, and then they should be having the Infernal Drake. So what is going on?
Okay, they were trying to realm warp into it, maybe thinking that Beyond had reset, and they could realm warp, or using the realm warp for vision, of course.
You could have thrown in an invisible Talon, actually, but TP is coming through here now. They're collapsing.
No realm warp available for Galatasaray. Liang on a good flank position. Flawless duet lands. Bolulu flashes. Just able to get away from that. Now the turnaround coming out. Vanguard's Edge used. Crazy almost into the Mega Gnar. Look, leaps away for the moment. Dragon available, and that would be Soul, as you said, for Beyond. Liang, no TP on him. Just used it down towards this bot side fight. Maoan in position for a good scatter of the week, but gets hit with a brick in the back. Mojito dives over onto the Infernal Dragon. Let's see how these 2 teams set up.
You just have to wait out the Mega Gnar. You don't have to do anything else than that. This is slowly but surely becoming into your favorable position, but you still don't have the bot lane vision. And all of a sudden, the Drake has been started up by Galatasaray.
Zergsting has no quickness. It's about 3, 4, 5 seconds away Hand it down with me. Zergsting will be looking for that. Has the flash, has the quickness, has the fog of war. Dragon started, secured, and that's Infernal Soul going over to Beyond. Kino dives onto the backline. Zergsting trying to get away, but already the damage is good from Beyond. Bolulu caught out. He steps into the middle. Already he's burst down. And you have to feel this is it. You have to feel this is done. Beyond will strike back against Galatasaray.
Yeah, Beyond is finally making it happen. Crazy, he's doing his best. Going into the Mecha Knight here, actually.
Yeah, it's not going to be able to get away from this one. Doggo flashes just for good measure. But Beyond finally able to use the fact they had a huge early game lead to hopefully close this one out. Although Mojito's up in 12, Zergsting's up in 8. Against Baroned up minions, I don't know if they can defend.
I think they're going for the end here. This is finally what you get from having these priority lanes, punishing the blind pick Gnar, knowing that Bolulu would go for the Ryze here to get the Syndra with priority, and now on the brink of taking down the Nexus for the first time for Beyond in this best of 5 series.
Beyond will not go quietly into the night. Their World's Run is not done yet. They take down Galatasaray and they get their first win of this series.
And that's how it's supposed to be done. That's what we wanted to see from Beyond. Take control of the early game, bring that control into the mid game with the objective stacking, and then just take care of your opponent with the massive gold lead that you have. Obviously, it does help having 3 winning lanes. Something has gone a bit wrong there from this side of Galatasaray going into this one, and obviously with the bot lane, Doggo and Kino getting 2v2 kills, finally seeing Kino on the map. Despite him having some slip-ups here and there, I would say that the overall performance in this game 3 from him was really nice.
I think that bot lane for Beyond really showing up in this game. They have been doing the entire series, but this game especially, they were just able to keep Galatasaray on the back foot for the entirety of it. As you say, Kino having a stormer of a game. Only the 2nd win for Amumu in the course of playing. It's 2-7 now. Still not the best record overall. I'm very much looking forward to the next game of the series. Of course, Galatasaray just need to shore up that early game, because in mid to late game team fights, when they're in such a strong position, they're so good at team fighting. We'll see if they can continue it through the rest of the series. There is more of the series still to come, but for now, here's a listen in on Pieces Team Communications with sounds of the game presented by Bose.
I'm gonna TP.
Go.
TPing. Going.
Yeah.
We kill everyone.
All no flash. These two no flash.
Leona.
Nice guys.
I need something on top.
Get the kill, mate! Good, yeah.
Focus.
I'm going Graves. No flash Graves. Just go forward with Trend. Callisto? Okay, barrel. I'm hitting barrel. I'm hitting Callisto with Chachi, okay? Yep. No flash. GP. I'm throwing GP.
Kill them.
I think we go Baron or both. I don't want to give them back. We can win. Just slow.
Slow. Kite back. 3 seconds. I'm catching over the wall.
Rise.
Come here, mate. Kill that guy.
You got him, Chachi, mate?
Yeah.
Nice, mate!
Let's go, baby.
The magical power of the realm is a mystery. Like a guardian, it is with you always. Defending you, charging you, watching over you like... Actually, it's not magic. It's this Cisco network. The power behind every gank, every combo, every mind-blowing moment. At League of Legends World Championships.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Welcome back to the State Farm Analyst Desk. Beyond Gaming showing signs of life here in our best of 5. The series score now stands at 2-1. Still plenty of work to be done, but it's good to see them get a win and do it in the fashion in which they did, and we're going to dive straight into it. First, by closing the loop on that draft that we were able to see just half of before the game started up. So, Emily, turning to you first, when it comes to how each of them ended up rounding out the compositions, how do you feel?
So when we talked about, like, okay, are you going to play around your pushing lanes again for Beyond, right? Because we've already addressed they've actually had a surprisingly strong early looks. And this draft, again, completed out. Amumu, which we brought up, this might be, I think, the best Amumu game we've seen thus far in the tournament. Which
it's not the toughest competition up to this point, if I'm being honest. But that's all right. Hey, we're on the upswing.
And hey, you know, it wasn't perfect, but and this is what gave a lot of Beyond yet another early game lead.
Yeah, and I honestly, I wasn't really a fan of this draft from Galatasaray. God, my brain's gone on it.
That's all right.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan because
Medic's infecting us all.
I know, yeah.
That's
but basically what I was looking at was, okay, cool. We already talked about it a little bit. Was like you've already got the losing lanes around the Talon, but then you go and you pick the Rakan into the Amumu. Like one of Rakan's big strengths is, hey, I can dash and flash and move around, and you can't really catch me. But Amumu's got the double bandage toss. He's got that big AOE. You end up blocking him down. We see the early double kill on the bot side as a result. Like it really felt like there was no real answers here for Galatasaray.
Well, Galatasaray, I got you. Don't worry about it. But that's the thing. I think it's important that we call out that, hey, the Amumu, yes, found success, but a lot of it is because the lead was generated in the bot lane. Yes, we're going to see an early kill here up to the top lane, but at this point, it had already been in the 2v2 that the MF and the Amumu had found, a win. And here again with the flash follow on the ultimate, while there was still some messiness on the side of Beyond Gaming, they did continue to push that early lead forward.
Yeah, and one thing that Goldberg brought up on cast when they were talking about the draft was how both of these teams have approached that bot lane 2v2. There hasn't been as much roaming from them. And we saw very early on, Galatasaray contested. So, like, you already have your losing lanes topside, right, that Doggo already talked about. But then Galatasaray, this bot lane 2v2 was testing the contesting the MF Amumu. And then they lose out on that trade early, which yet again snowballs this early game for Beyond Gaming. And then, hey, guess who fought better around objectives this game? It
was the team that won. It was Beyond Gaming. That one I know the answer to. But this is now 3 games in a row, Dagda, where Beyond Gaming has built an early lead. At 15 minutes even, they have substantial gold leads, which largely, in most games, obviously game 1 a little closer, but game 2, game 3, when you see gold leads like that at 15 minutes, it's generally calling it. We're calling it right there.
Yeah.
You assume that it's going to be over. And I think the big thing as well was, like, when we looked at that massive lead from game 2, you had that scaling going in the top side. They had the opportunity to kind of, hey, if we can play late, we got that opportunity. You don't really have that with this draft. Like, the Gnar on the top side not going to have that, the massive, hey, we just have this massive late game scaler. So I think coming into this, you had a bit of an easier time coming through. But I think the big one as well is, like, now that we actually get the opportunity to talk about it, I really like that we're seeing movements from Maoan in the mid lane. Like, we've seen it every single game where he's actually had a big impact. And one of the big things I pointed out at the start of the day was, I have not seen this guy move. I'm not a big fan of him, but we're actually getting it here, and you can see the results when you look at the goal.
Came into the tournament 0-4 on Syndra. He's now 2-4 on Syndra. So who knows? Maybe this is the pick for him right at this point. But I think for Beyond Gaming, right, with this win coming in, 1, it's going to be a boost to the confidence. But 2, I think they have their recipe for success, and that's to continue to get the early leads and just operate with a little more cleanliness from that point. And so now the question becomes, about whether or not Galatasaray can actually close this series out. They've got 2 opportunities to do so. It's definitely not panic time. But as we look ahead towards game number 4, this will be the first time that we see the teams swap sides of the map. Galatasaray over to red. But is there really that much that can even be done in Champions Select to affect the way the game has been going? Or do they just need to find their answer within the game, Emily, to start, staunching some of the bleeding that's been happening so early on?
So this was the first draft that I, also didn't, super like from them. But I will say the cool thing about being on red side that we're seeing, especially from Beyond Gaming, is that they've been relying on that for the support counter pick, which I think has been super, super important, again, for how they want to play that bot side 2v2. So they're not even sending Husha down there that much. It's just about what they can do in the lane. And so I'm really curious to see if Galatasaray try to make sure that they have that support counter pick and just play for 2v2 as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see if that is the case, or if we end up seeing a little bit more from Crazy, right? They've been looking to him to be one of the big, excuse me, damage leaders on this team. We had like 29% coming into the day for him. I wouldn't be surprised if we're like, hey, look, let's try and put our eggs in the top lane basket and see if we can make this work.
That was how we teased the whole top of the day, right? Was expecting them to play around a strong side on the top side of the map, and it seems as the day has gone on, the focus has kind of shifted its way down towards that bottom side, the Drake fights, and then, of course, the 2v2. We got Game 4 coming up right after this commercial break. We'll see you back here for some more Worlds action.